My name is Sara. I am 24 years old, and I live in a small city. Since I was a child, I loved English. When I watched movies or listened to songs, I dreamed of speaking like the people I heard. But there was a big problem. I could understand English. When someone spoke to me, I knew what they were saying. I could even imagine my answers in my head. But when I tried to speak, my mind froze. Words got stuck in my throat and my sentences sounded wrong. Sometimes I practiced alone in my room. I looked at myself in the mirror and said, "Hello, my name is Sara. How are you?" But even then, I felt unsure. What if my grammar is wrong? What if I sound silly? These thoughts always stopped me. One day, something terrible happened. I was at a store and a tourist asked me for help. She said, "Excuse me, can you tell me where the bus station is?" I knew the answer, but instead of speaking, I just pointed and said, "There." She smiled and said, "Thank you." But I felt ashamed. Why couldn't I say a full sentence? That night I cried. I told myself, "Sara, you will never learn. You are not good enough." I almost gave up. But deep inside, I didn't want to quit. I had a dream. I wanted to get a job where I could meet people from different countries. I wanted to travel and make friends from all over the world. How could I do that if I couldn't speak English? The next day, I decided to try harder. I told myself, "Sara, you can do this. Don't be afraid." But the truth is, I was afraid. And maybe you know this feeling too. Have you ever felt like people are watching you, waiting for you to make a mistake? That's how I felt every time I tried to speak English. One time, I was in class, and the teacher asked me a question. "Sara, can you read this sentence out loud?" My hand started to shake, and my heart was beating so fast. I opened my mouth, but the words came out wrong. Everyone in the class laughed. Even the teacher smiled and said, "It's okay, Sara. Keep trying." But I didn't want to keep trying. I wanted to disappear. Another time, I was practicing with my cousin Layla. She speaks English very well. I told her, "Let's practice. You ask me questions and I will answer." She asked, "What do you like to do in your free time?" I wanted to say, "I like reading books and listening to music." But instead I said, "I like read books and music." Ah. She laughed and said, "Sara, you sound like a robot." She didn't mean to hurt me, but her words stayed in my head. I felt stupid. I thought, why is this so easy for other people but so hard for me? Sometimes at night, I would remember all my mistakes, the wrong words, the laughter, the shame. I felt so small. Maybe you felt the same way too, afraid to speak because of what others might think. But something inside me kept saying, "Don't stop, Sara. Keep going." Even though it was hard, I wanted to try again. One evening, after another long day of feeling stuck, I went for a walk. The streets were quiet, and the cool air touched my face. I kept thinking, why can't I just speak? Why does it feel so hard? My thoughts were loud, but the world around me was silent. I passed by a small library. Something made me stop. I looked inside and saw a poster on the wall. English Speaking Club every Friday at 6 p.m. Beginners welcome. At first, I felt excited. Maybe this is my chance. But then, the doubts came rushing back. What if they laugh at me? What if I say something wrong? I stood outside the library, frozen. My feet didn't want to move. Has this ever happened to you? Have you ever wanted to try something new but felt too scared to start? That was me, standing there in the cold, staring at the door. Finally, I took a deep breath and said, "Sara, you can't stay scared forever." I opened the door and walked in. The room was small but full of people. There were about 10 of them, all sitting in a circle. Some were older, some younger, but everyone looked friendly. A woman stood up and smiled at me. "Hello. Welcome to the English Speaking Club. What's your name?" My heart was beating so fast. I opened my mouth and said, My name is Sara." The woman nodded. "Nice to meet you, Sara. Please take a seat." The club leader started a game where we had to introduce ourselves and say one thing we liked. My turn came quickly. I stood up and said, "I like reading
books and listen.
music." My voice was shaking, and I felt my face turn red. But instead of laughing, the people clapped. One person said, "Good job, Sara." Another said, "You're doing great." For the first time, I felt a little less afraid. Over the next few weeks, I kept going to the club. Some days were good. I learned new words, made friends, and spoke a little more confidently. But other days were hard. Once, I tried to tell a story about my weekend, but I mixed up all the words. I go to park with my friends.
We eat
Sandwich in the grass. I saw some people smile, but they didn't laugh at me. They helped me. Still, at home, I doubted myself. I thought, why do I still make mistakes? Will I ever sound natural? One Friday, I didn't want to go to the club. I thought, maybe I should stop. Maybe English isn't for me. But just as I was about to give up, I remembered something the club leader said. Speaking is like climbing a mountain. At first, it feels impossible. But every step, no matter how small, gets you closer to the top. Don't stop climbing. One day, everything changed. A new member joined the club, a young woman named Emma. She was from Canada, and her English was perfect. She sat next to me and said, "Hi, Sara. Can we practice together?" At first, I was nervous. "Practice with you?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "You understand English so well. I think you can do it." We started meeting after the club sessions. Emma taught me little tricks. If you forget a word, describe it. Don't stop speaking. Talk to yourself in English. Pretend you're having a conversation. Don't try to be perfect. Mistakes mean you're learning. Practicing with Emma was fun. She didn't care about my mistakes. She encouraged me to keep going. Emma and I started meeting twice a week after the club sessions. She told me something that surprised me. "Sara, I wasn't always good at English. When I was younger, I couldn't speak at all. I understood people, but my words felt stuck, just like yours." I couldn't believe it. "Really? But you speak so perfectly now." She laughed. "Thanks, but it wasn't magic. I had an amazing teacher who taught me some tricks."
Let me show you.
The first thing Emma taught me was the mirror trick. She said, stand in front of a mirror and talk to yourself. Watch your mouth, your expressions, everything. Pretend you're talking to a friend. At first, it felt silly. I looked at myself and said, hello, Sara. How are you today? Then I answered myself, I am fine. And you? Emma laughed so hard when I told her.
See?
You're already making a friend, yourself. But the more I did it, the more confident I felt. I started adding emotions. I am so tired today. Or guess what? I got a new book. Watching my face made me feel like I was actually talking to someone. One day, Emma brought a small notebook. She said, write down 5 random words every day. Then, make a sentence with them. I tried it. My first 5 words were cat, chocolate, dance, blue, and laugh. My sentence was, the blue cat ate chocolate and danced while I laughed. Emma said, perfect. It doesn't have to make sense. Just use the words. This helps your brain think in English. We laughed so much at our silly sentences. Emma's sentence was, I laughed when a chocolate cat danced with a blue bird. Emma had a crazy idea. She said, talk to everything around you. Talk to your chair, your shoes, your coffee cup, pretend they can understand you. It sounded ridiculous, but I tried. Hello, chair. Thank you for holding me up today. You're doing a great job. Or good morning, coffee. You smell amazing. I love you. I felt like a comedian in my own house. But it worked. Speaking to objects made me practice, without fear of mistakes. After all, my coffee cup wasn't going to laugh at me. Emma then taught me shadowing. She explained, listen to someone speak in English and repeat what they say immediately. Try to copy their tone, speed, and pronunciation. We practiced with a short video. The man on the screen said, hello, my name is John. I live in New York. I repeated, hello, my name is John. I live in New York. At first, I was slow, but Emma encouraged me. It's okay to pause and repeat. Just keep going. Over time, I noticed my pronunciation getting better, and I started feeling more natural. Emma's favorite exercise was the 2-minute story. She said, pick any topic and talk about it for 2 minutes without stopping. It doesn't matter if it's perfect. Just keep speaking. One day, I chose to talk about my weekend. I said, on Saturday, I went to the park with my friend.
We
Ate sandwiches.
and
The weather was sunny. Emma clapped. Amazing! You didn't stop. She added, if you don't know a word, describe it. Like if you forget sandwich, say bread with something inside. It's okay to improvise. Emma shared one final piece of advice. She said, mistakes are like a badge of honor. Every mistake means you tried. My teacher used to tell me, if you're not making mistakes, you're not learning. She even made me play a funny game. She said, let's try to make as many mistakes as we can. I said, I go to the park. Emma laughed and said, perfect mistake. Now fix it. I went to the park. We kept playing, and for the first time, I didn't feel scared of mistakes. They became my friends, not my enemies. After a few weeks of practicing Emma's methods, I started noticing small changes. My sentences were smoother. I could think in English faster. And most importantly, I didn't feel as scared. One day, I even talked to a tourist in the library. She asked, "Where can I find books about history?" I smiled and said, "They are on the second floor. I can show you if you want." She thanked me, and I felt proud. Months passed, and I continued practicing Emma's methods. My confidence was growing, but deep down, I still wondered, am I ready to face a real challenge? Then one day, the challenge found me. I was at the library, quietly reading, when the club leader rushed toward me. "Sara, can you help us? There's a guest speaker here for an event, and he only speaks English. We need someone to introduce him to the audience." My heart dropped. Me? But You can do it, Sara. I've seen how much you've improved. Believe in yourself, she said, squeezing my hand. As I walked to the stage, my hands felt cold and my heart was racing. The guest speaker, a tall man with a kind smile, waited near the microphone. He said, "Hello, nice to meet you." I opened my mouth, and to my surprise, I replied, "Nice to meet you too. Welcome to our library." He nodded, and I realized I was doing it. I was speaking English. The club leader handed me a piece of paper with the introduction written on it. I looked at the words, but my mind was a blur. "You can do this," I whispered to myself. I stepped up to the microphone. The room was full of people, all looking at me. For a moment, I felt frozen. Then, I remembered Emma's voice in my head. "Mistakes are okay. Just speak." I took a deep breath and began. "Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming today. Our guest is Mr. John Taylor. He is a writer and traveler. He writes about many countries and people." I paused, searching for the right words. A small voice in my head said, "Keep going. Don't stop. He will talk about his book and his experience." When I finished, the audience clapped. I couldn't believe it. They were smiling not because I was perfect, but because I had tried. After the event, Mr. Taylor came up to me and said, "You did a great job, Sara. I know it's not easy to speak in a second language, but you were confident." "Thank you," I said, my face lighting up. Later, Emma called me. "How did it go?" I told her everything, and she laughed. "I knew you could do it, Sara. See? You climbed that mountain." From that day on, I felt like a new person. I started speaking more in the club, helping other beginners, and even talking to strangers in English. One evening, as I looked in the mirror during my practice, I smiled and said, "Hello, Sara. You're doing amazing. Keep going." Because now I knew English wasn't something to fear. It was something to enjoy. Have you ever felt like Sara? Afraid to speak? Worried about mistakes? Remember her story. Start small, try every day, and never stop climbing your own mountain. Mistakes are not the end. They are the beginning.